Recording. All right. Do you want me to do announcements?
Yeah.
Or?
Up to you. Yeah.
Okay. You're good.
Or I can do it, and you can, because you're talking after. It's
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the finale of this class. So actually tonight was supposed to be like a guest lecture. We were supposed to have one of our ex-members come in to talk about like accessibility for app design, but he ended up having a flight like tonight, so we had to like basically come up with something to replace that. So eventually I thought it would be a good idea to teach you guys about what we call a UITabViewController. So have you guys like reached out to your like hack challenge people yet? Mayhaps you guys have a general gist of like what kind of app you'll be building? Kind of, maybe, not really. So most of the time what we found is that like a lot of hack challenge groups, especially like those with design members, will tend to create apps that involve some sort of like tabs, right? So usually how it works is that people like to separate like functionalities of an app into different tabs. So usually it's like a home page, a search page, a profile page, etc. So we thought it'd be a good idea to teach you guys like how to set that up. So it'll be a fairly short lecture because there's not really too much to it except of this one additional class. But we'll like, I guess, talk quickly about conceptually, and then we'll talk about how to actually implement it. Okay, so for some quick announcements, we'll be releasing mentors tonight, so if you haven't filled out the form, you can still fill out now, because I haven't actually done it yet, but I'll get to it. Also, the team roadmap form is due tonight, technically, so you should get with your team and fill out, basically, what you want your project to be about. It doesn't have to be concrete, just like, I think it asks you for like a gist of like what you want your project to be on, just so we have an idea that like you guys have like at least met up or spoke to some extent. If your team is ghosting you, please let us know. Don't let us know like a week in. But yeah, so I think the hack challenge is mandatory for every team except for design, so like they should be on it too. So like if your backend members are like ghosting you, they'll fail, so let us know. Okay, A4 final is technically due tomorrow night. What's going on with it's?
So yeah, technically it's going to be due officially tomorrow night, but keep in mind we're allocating 4 extra days where you can submit it, where technically it counts as your slip days, but if you're out of slip days, we won't be deducting for them. So it's technically due 4 days after tomorrow night, so accounting for potentially 4 slip days you can use, so don't worry about that. And I've sort of made it so that the midpoint is weighted a lot more, so as long as you push something to GitHub, you'll get 50% of the points. And that being said, if you reasonably attempt the assignment and sort of have like something on the screen, you will definitely pass the assignment. So this is sort of a low stress kind of situation with A4, because I know like a lot of people ended up spending a lot more time on A3 and didn't really get too much time to work on A4. Hence, we're going to make the grading a lot more lenient. So, yep, it is technically due tonight, but you have 4 days to submit it on CMS before it closes. So keep that in mind.
I guess like on that note, do you guys feel like A3 was too long, like in terms of like feedback for next semester? Like, did you guys think A3 was like way too much packed into one assignment, even though it was like technically like 2 or 3 weeks long? I guess spring break doesn't count, but like, I guess any feedback on A3? Was it too long?
I feel like the timing was just a lot, like, kind of bad for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of
Spring
prelim
break.
season and spring break.
Yeah, okay. So that's something we'll think about that. Like, I think we'll maybe like cut it into 2 different assignments, or like figure out something with I guess at least spring, because fall is better because fall is longer, but spring, because of the spring break, it makes like figuring out how to like slot all the assignments in very difficult. But anywho, but yeah, so I quote it here, reasonably attempt, but like just like commit something that's like somewhat like at least like try a little bit, right? 'Cause I think it's useful for a hack challenge.
Yeah. So like even like using persistence, and that really does test you on some of the it just sort of ties everything that we learned in the course together. So that's why we had that A4, was like persistence, networking, everything combined into one. So that's sort of really good to sort of train for like a hackathon, like your hack challenge project. But yeah, just don't worry about the grading. It's more so like reasonably attempt, as long as you're like writing code that's relevant. Don't just like copy the prompt in the ChatGPT and then paste it in, and then paste in whatever code it does, because we will definitely notice. But as long as you sort of like implement and follow some of the directions, you'll definitely get credit for that. So don't worry about that.
Yep. And then also office hours will continue to happen for the like time period of the hack challenge. So like this week and next week we'll have office hours, and then the hack challenge is officially due next Friday. So on Thursday night we'll have what we call like midnight office hours, which basically means we'll have like all the TAs from all the different courses in, I think it's Gates Geo1 from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. So the idea is that you like, if you want to like grind out with the help of like a TA, or I guess TAs, you'll be able to just come in and do that. So yeah, that's something. We'll like post announcements later on more specific logistics.
And it is like available for you guys to use this opportunity for like last minute help. It's not saying that you should start the hack challenge a day before it's due and hope that TAs can help you there, because that is just not possible to develop an app that quickly. So please do start before midnight office hours and come in with questions.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Any questions in terms like of logistics for the? Yes.
What is the date? Next Friday?
Yeah, it's due next Friday, and the midnight office hours is happening Thursday night, so the night before it's due. Yeah, it ends up like usually dragging into like 1 or 2 a.m.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
so it's not like strict. It's just like, yeah, it depends.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions, or are we good? Okay, I guess we can get into the actual nitty gritty.
I'll start with like the intro on tab bar controllers, just a little conceptual. So as Tiffany mentioned before, we're going to be covering sort of this thing called a UI tab bar controller. So if you guys are familiar with apps like Instagram or Spotify, if you see on the bottom section of the app, you sort of have access to your home page. On Spotify, there's also a playlist page. And on Instagram, you'll have your feeds page, your home page, search bar, things like that. So you always see that there's that little bottom tab right there. So that is what the UI tab bar controller is. It sort of allows us to navigate seamlessly between view controllers without pushing, popping, or presenting any of the views. Okay, so like I mentioned before, specifically it is this sort of bottom bar that you see here. Oftentimes it will have a home page, a search page, a profile page even, and in this case with Spotify, like I mentioned, it will be like a playlist page here. Sort of each one of those icons and text sort of represents one view that you can navigate to in between. And unlike pushing and popping, there is no really child and parent views. They're all sort of on this UI tab bar controller where you can navigate between the views like so. So the examples we used before were like Spotify, Instagram, and Reddit, or mainly any sort of app that you'll use most likely will have a tab bar controller. And that's why these are so important, because most likely in your hack challenge project, you will be using a tab bar controller for your sort of main screen. So, okay, but really what is it? So simply a tab bar controller is merely just a container that contains all of your view controllers and provides the sort of functionality of navigating between the view controllers. So there's no sort of parent-child distinction. They're all sort of children of the UI tab bar controller. And all the container views are view controllers that has parts of its content from other views. So sort of you have this main page with the tab bar underneath, and you can sort of navigate between the view controllers using the tab buttons below. So when you're displaying content, the sort of tab bar actually holds the actual bar on the bottom, as well as the views of your designated content, depending on what you select in the bottom bar. And sort of here is sort of the layout of what this specifically looks like. So if you use Xcode, there's sort of this debugging feature where there's like this panel icon. I can show you guys, or Tiffany can show you guys that later. But this allows you to sort of debug your views and see what the layers are. And if you were to do that with a tab bar view, this is what it sort of would look like with your actual tab bar here with the icons and your sort of view controller and navigation view nested on top. So this is your specific view. This is the navigation controller that the view is on, and this is the specific tab bar that we're navigating to and from. And yeah, I don't think, is there a limit to how many tabs you can have?
I've never tested it.
I don't think I've tested it, but usually you don't have more than 4 to 5 because then it becomes really confusing. I don't know if there is a limit, but you need at least 2, and I'd say no more than 5 tabs in the bottom, otherwise it gets confusing. So why would we use a tab bar controller? So like I mentioned before with the hack challenge, this is one of the more important UI views that we don't really cover in the main content of the course because we just don't have enough time to fit it in. But since we do have a lecture today, we're going to go into how you guys can set up and use this for the hack challenge. So for a lot of the designers, especially if you have designers on your team, they will use this sort of tab bar implementation to display multiple views. Because keep in mind, if you sort of want to display like sort of 3 different views, you can't really push and present because in the case where you have 3 views, you'll have to push from one view, and from that view, you have to push again. So in that case, you won't be able to navigate from your original view to your top view because you sort of had that parent-child configuration. So when you have this tab bar, it sort of treats all views within the tab bar as sort of on the same hierarchy. Thus, you can navigate to and between all the views without pushing and popping from a parent or a child. So that sort of allows us to seamlessly navigate between views on your home pages and things like that. And yeah, like I mentioned before, it sort of handles that tab switching. And the only thing you really need to define that in addition to for each of the views, so it'll be the same setup. So in your tab bar controller, you have 3 view controllers, and those view controllers will be the same setup as we've gone over in the class. However, the one thing that you will need to configure is sort of the UI tab bar item, where you sort of configure what the actual tab will look like. So Tiffany will go into that a little bit with the demo. Yep, I'll pass it on to Tiffany for the demo.
Yeah. So the code for this is on this repository. So if you go into where you usually find demos and stuff, if you go all the way down to tab view. So if you don't see this, refresh the page, because I think GitHub caches like old pushes. So if you just refresh, you should see a tab view. Yeah, they didn't have an emoji for 11, so I had to use this like jank one. But if you scroll down, so for this lecture, I actually created because we were making this complete from scratch, I created a lecture guide. So if you click on this, it's essentially what Richie has been talking about, and also what I'll be basically referencing my lecture off of. This is kind of a trial run for this semester, so sorry, you guys are kind of guinea pigs. But I'm testing this out for just this lecture specifically, because this is just going to be like what we're going to be talking about, but as you can also reference it on paper copy basically as I talk. And it will also have like basically all the code that I'm writing in case you miss something and I switch away. But this is just something like that we would love your feedback on in terms of trying something like, okay, so you can find the code either if you don't want to git pull, you can find it directly if you go all the way down. It's here, it's in this little thing, but you can also just download it directly in this zip code file. So you can either use this link, or I don't think this link is posted actually.
Wait, it's not?
It's not on this. Oops, that's my bad. But you can just, I'll put it here later, but you can also just download the zip for the time being. Yeah, it should be a fairly quick demo, because you'll see in a second, I guess right now, that I've set most of the actual views up that we'll be creating with our tabs, and all we have to do is basically put them into a tab view. Okay. Let's let that load so you can kind of see. Okay, so this is the current state of our app. So I'll give you guys a second. Does everyone have the demo downloaded, or I guess ready to go? Okay, so let's get started. I guess for a quick overview of the app, we first have this view controller file. Oh, I think okay, here we go. That is, oops, this first page. So as you can see, this whole cat gif and this welcome label is this first page, and then we also have a profile view controller that we currently do not see because I haven't put these two views into a tab view controller yet. So what we're gonna do basically is create that tab bar class and put these two views into two tabs. So essentially on the bottom right here, we'll have a home tab and also a profile tab that will hopefully allow us to basically display this second screen. Okay, so let me get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually define a UITab controller class. So what we can do is simply right click on this controllers file, click new file, and we'll just call it, is this Swift file? Let's call it tab view controller. So we hit create, and let's import UIKit. Oops. And then let's define this class, so tab view controller. And like I mentioned before, this is, I guess like Richie mentioned before, but this is also simply just a UI view controller. And let's also give it a view did load. Okay, so that's set up. So the first thing we have to do is actually, let me call super view load. Super dot view did load. Okay, so we have this tab view set up. So this is going to be the class that contains, I guess, that will create the tabs for, right, that we want to display this home page and also the profile page. So the first thing I want to do is actually define a function, set up tabs, right? So how do we actually set up these tabs so that we will be able to go between these two screens? So like Richie mentioned before, we need to create these tab bar items, right? So that's the tab bar items actually define like what icon you want your tab to display and also like what you actually want to label the tab. So before we can do that, we actually have to create the views that we want the tabs to actually go to. So we want to first, so we have this view controller that will like basically consider our home view controller because it's like the first tab that opens. So let's define a home VC and instantiate this view controller object. And then the second tab we want is this profile screen, right? So let's create that as well. So we'll just call it let profiles VC equals, and then use this to create these two views. So we're basically like creating objects of these two view controllers because we want to basically use this tab view controller to contain these two objects. So the idea is that like these two are kind of like the children-ish, and we'll basically tell the tab view that we want you to navigate between these two objects that we created. So to do that, we actually have to create the tab bar item. So if we hit the view controller, I guess we'll have to do both of them. So let's start with the home VC, and you set the tab bar item. So it's actually a property. So this tab bar item that represents the view controller when added to a tab bar controller. So what we can do here is actually tell it what we want it to look like. So if you can create a tab bar item, so if you just go down to like the fourth one, it'll autofill for you, and you'll see there's 3 fields. So title refers to what you actually want the tab to be called, right? So in this case, where is it at? Title here would be home, title here would be search, and title here would be your library. And then, so for our home VC, we can just call it home. And for the image, it actually refers to what you want to display up here, right? So what you actually want the icon to look like for your tab. So in this case, you could use like a custom asset, like if you wanted to, but have we ever talked about Symbols Explorer in this class?
Oh, SF.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't think so.
Do you have it on your thing?
I think so, I do.
Oh.
It's called SF Symbols.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So there's actually this really cool app. I don't know if you will have to use it for a hack challenge, but essentially if you ever create your own apps in the future, it's called Symbols Explorer, and it's a lot of like basically predefined Apple symbols. So if you notice, like a lot of these are really clean, and the good thing about these is that you don't actually have to even like import them into Xcode. So what you can actually do is you can literally, like for example, we want a home icon, right? So if I just look up home or house, so if you click on it, you'll see you can just copy name, and then you can actually just create a UI image like you normally would, except there's this new parameter you can use called system name. So you can see that it says create an image item object that uses a system symbol image, and in here you can literally put in the string of the object, and that'll be it. So there's no need to like import it into your assets, and you can just directly use it like this. So like literally if you just take like Playhouse Fill, whatever any of the icons you want. Oh, they have HomePod in these? That's crazy.
HomePod.
Yeah, and you just put the string in and it works fine. And then for tag, essentially what the tag is that it just identifies like the view controller. So for our first one, we want a tag of 0. For our second one, we want a tag of 1, and etc. So that if you ever want to reference these view controllers, you can reference them with your tags. You'll see why this is useful in a second. But let's first set this for our second view controller as well. So let's give it a UITabView item, and also use this. So the second one, like I mentioned, is going to be a profile view. So we'll give it a title of profile. And then for this one, let's see, what should we give it? Is there like a head one? Oh, that's not what I want. Person? Yeah, that's what I want. So we can use person. So we can simply just pass in person here. And then for this tag, since it's our second view controller, we can just pass in 1. I guess it's up to you what you want to pass it for that, but I think conventionally the way we do it is just passing it in an order. Okay, so after that, we're basically actually almost there. So we have these 2 view controllers set up with their tab bar items. So now what we actually only have to do, like what's left, is to add it to this actual class. So the way we can do that is, so if you call self, which refers to tab view controller in this case, there's actually a method called set view controllers. There you go. Yeah.
It's a UI tab bar controller.
Oh, you're right. Oh my god, why did I call that? Okay, my bad. Okay, actually, yeah. So this should be a UI tab bar. I don't know why. Okay, sorry. So this tab view controller should be of type UI tab bar controller. I think I wrote UI view controller because it's basically like a subclass of a UI view controller. But specifically, this needs to be a UITabView controller because we need access to the set view controllers function. So if you see here, the first parameter it takes is a list of UI view controllers objects, right? So basically, we need to pass in what we created just now, right? Because it takes in a list of these view controllers. So we can pass in home VC as well as profile VC. And then we can set animated to true. So now if we run this, let's see. Oh, I need to call it. I guess this is a lesson. Oh yeah. Nothing is gonna show because I actually did not call setup tab. So this, if you ever like run into any issues with your Hacktown project or A4, always check that because sometimes that could just be the case. Oh, interesting. So we made this tab bar controller, we called setup tabs, but nothing's showing. Do you guys have any idea why that might be the case? So this is still showing my main view controller right now. So it's still showing this. So with the welcome label and the cat image view. Any thoughts on why that might be? Okay, no pressure. I just wanted to rhetorically ask, I guess. What's actually happening is that when we load our app, I don't know if you guys ever like dug into the scene delegate file, but this is essentially what Swift tells the app to do when you load it. So in this case, if you have ever looked here, you'll notice that when we create the view hierarchy, we set the root VC to view controller. This means that when you launch the app, the first, I guess if you think of it as a stack, the most base view that you see is this view controller, which makes sense because that's why we see this cat gif and we also see this label. So in this case, what we actually want to do is we want to make our root VC the tab VC. Since I guess directly for this app, we want that to be like what the app first loads to. So instead of view controller here, we actually want to create a tab view controller object. So if we actually create that and run it again, hopefully we'll be able to see our tabs. There we go. So you see, before I use these home icons, this person icon, so if we click on this, oh no, where's the image? No. Oh, I think maybe I didn't get pushed did you pull from the Git? Is that why?
Oh, you recently?
Oh, maybe I added the image late. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Wait, I can save this. So, is there a cat? Oh, frick, not to. Is there a cat? Please be a cat. Oh, okay, we're saved. Okay, so you see how I used named here? So that actually refers to an asset, right? But it wasn't in the GitHub when I sent this to Richie, so that's why nothing is actually showing in terms of the image. So we can actually just change this, in this case, to a system named one. And, oops, let me get rid of all this. Let's just pass in cat, and hopefully we'll just get that little cat icon. But that's about all I have. So in terms of your hack challenge projects, you might have like a login screen or some sort, so you'd want that to be your root VC. Perfect. That's a blue cow, okay. You might want
color.
Yeah. You might want like your login screen to be your tab view controller or something. So then how that will work, your root view controller is that once you log in, then you want to push your tab view, right? Like, you know, when you log into like Instagram or something, you have that login screen, and then you actually see the screen with all the tabs on the bottom, so that you'll navigate between like home, search, whatever. So you wouldn't have this as your root. You'd have like your login view controller as your root, and then once you like authenticate the user, like make sure it works, then you can like push this view on top. Does that make sense? Okay. I just did this here just for the sake of this demo. But that's basically all I have.
And I guess like
Yeah.
you guys don't know how to set up a Swift file, right? Because we never really covered that because most of the assignments that we give you have sort of pre-set up files already. But I'm not really going to go into too much detail today. But if you do go to our course textbook and you scroll down, I believe there is sort of a guide on how to set up a. So you go to guides and go to Xcode project setup. In here, I think there is a section that sort of, here you go. So right here, you'll see that this code sort of explains what this does, and essentially In your scene delegate, like Tiffany mentioned before, you'll just change whatever screen that you want to display first as your root VC. And I believe this code is given to you by Xcode the moment you create an Xcode file. So what you have to do is just navigate to the scene delegate and merely change your root VC to whatever view controller you want to be the root. So that will sort of indicate what view you want to display first.
If not, you can just copy and paste that.
Yeah, or you can literally like copy and paste the format of the assignments. That will sort of allow you to do that the same as well. But yeah, that might be something you encounter is like setting up the actual file itself, since we actually didn't go quite into too much detail on that. But there is guides on the website, and you'll see there's a lot more that we potentially didn't cover, but you know, they still might be good to sort of look at a textbook if you want to implement any features that we didn't necessarily go over in class. Oh, yeah, and I also mentioned before that we sort of have like a debugging screen. So if you go back here, you sort of see that in the slides, we have sort of this view where you see all the overlays of the potential views that are currently on screen. So if you see here on just from the phone screen itself, you only see that screen on top, because anytime you have a phone, it only displays the screen at the very top of the hierarchy. However, if you wanted to debug and see like, oh, in case like one of your views is being blocked by another, or you want to see if one of your views is being set up correctly, what you can do here is if you go down to this little icon here, you see these little panels. So it says debug view hierarchy. If you do click that, keep in mind it will sort of, you know, stop the execution of your app, so you'll have to run again. But if you do let it load a bit, you'll see that we have this sort of hierarchy here. And if you just scroll a little bit, you'll be able to see this 3D view of what is going on in your application currently. So if you see here, let me zoom in a little bit, you'll see the tab bar view controller is right there, and on top we have the profile view controller. Now if you were on the home view controller, this would be the home view controller. So if you were on this home tab instead, you'd have home here instead. So you can see sort of how the hierarchy works with a lot of these Xcode views. How do I zoom out? So you can see that the scene is here, so that's sort of why you need to set up the scene delegate. So it sort of allows you to display whatever view you want to display first. So in this case, since we did set it to the UITabView controller, we sort of have that right here. And if you do click into each views, it'll show you what sort of views are within each of the views here on the side panel as well. So if you're sort of like, you know, trying to figure out why a view isn't displaying, a good idea might be to use this debug screen here to sort of figure out, is this a constraint issue? Is it because it's being blocked by another view? Or anything else like that. This is sort of a good first step to do, so, you know, to sort of debug for UI specifically.
Oh wait, I was gonna mention. Wait, so if you've ever like had a constraint issue, there's also this really useful site it's actually called WTF constraint. So I don't have an error like an example. Oh sorry, what the fuck? Sorry, WTF auto layout. Sorry. So essentially what you can do is just put in the error code here, and it tells you, can I look up like a constraint error? Is there like an example we can be able to pull? No, I don't really know.
I don't think so, probably.
Oh wait, example. Goofy. Okay, so if you just put in, let's look at the constraint again. If you put in the error that it gives you, so I think it asks you for specifically between the parentheses. So if you ever get any issues with constraints specifically, you can just put in the error and click go, and it just tells you like where your constraints are messing up. So right now you can see that like there's an issue with the label, whatever height. So basically, like if you don't want to read through all the like really ugly looking like error messages, you can use this website. I believe that's all we had for tonight besides the Kahoot. Yeah. Any questions on tab views? Cool.
Nice.
Okay.
We have music for the last one.
Will it glitch again?
Maybe not with the USB-C this time. Jump scare. I don't think it's muted. Oh, sad. This is really low.
Wait, it was working. Oh, there.
Oh, it's just very quiet. There's 11 people again? 6, 9. Yeah.
Memorize all these that I use now.
No? Maybe one of you guys isn't here. Oh, there we go. Nice. Let's get started. Yep, so have you guys discussed your group for the hack challenge yet? Or discussed with your group?
I think I made this all right, yeah.
Okay, it's good that most of you have discussed it. Yeah, so keep in mind the group roadmap form is due tonight. So make sure you guys fill that out. That sort of requires you to sort of brainstorm ideas for the challenge. It's sort of not set in stone, so you don't have to worry about like changing your idea halfway. It's sort of to get your, brainstorming going along so you guys have enough time to actually start implementing it.
Also, if you guys like have any issues with any of your group members, like people not responding, you can reach out to like any of us, and we'll get that sorted. Because it happens. It happens.
The team roadmap form is due tonight. Yep. Okay. So I mentioned this before. So it's freebie, guys. Freebie. Nice. Okay. A UI tab bar controller is a container view.
Like tonight's just testing reaction speed now. Who hits true the fastest?
Oh, one more. Just lost the answer. Okay, yeah, so a UI tab bar controller is a container view, meaning that it sort of nests view within it. So when you have sort of two separate view controllers like that, it sort of acts as the container around it where the tab is on the bottom and it's part of the container that contains the actual view controllers that you're displaying.
It's also not the only container view, so there's other stuff like I believe scroll views that are also like container views. So if you like are interested in doing more iOS development, you can definitely look into.
And the cells of like a UI collection are technically container view too. Right? Yeah, so like the cells, like things like that, those are also container views. They're sort of views that like allow you to nest views within them. So which is essentially any view in UI kit, but those are the main ones. Yeah. Nice. Let's multi-select. If I want a tab bar with two view controllers in my tab bar view controller class setup function, I need two.
Basically, what do you have to do to actually set up the tabs? When I first phrased the question, well, no, because
Oh, setup function.
yeah,
I see.
when I first wrote it, it like yelled at me because too much. Okay, I guess this is kind of a trick question, but technically you do have to do this last part, but this just happens in the scene delegate. So what actually only happens in the setup function is just these three, but yeah. Okay, I think last question.
That's one nice. Another multi-select.
Yeah.
Print hello world.
I need another option.
Console.log hello world.
Yeah. Oh, why did I make it multi-select? I meant to make it like all
Oh yeah,
right.
why is it? I guess I can select all of the above. Print hello world.
No,
No, that's
not.
valid. That's a valid feeling.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for the semester. Really appreciate it. Y'all always come into lecture.
It's been a pleasure teaching you guys. Thank you for pulling up to lecture for the last day. I know it's like kind of hard coming later at night, but thank you guys for coming, and it's been a great semester for everyone.
Yeah, hope to see like in new courses. If you guys are interested in taking any other
Yeah, if you're taking backend or
courses.
Android or even design, maybe we'll see you there.
or apply to AppDev, and we'll see you there too.